14 should have been ordinary. Instead, it became the dividing line between who I was supposed to be and who I actually became. Looking back now, almost 15 years later, I can see that single day with perfect clarity. The moment everything shifted. I'm Caleb Brooks, and June 15th, 2010, started like any other birthday. I walked home from school expecting the usual small acknowledgments. Maybe a cake from the grocery store bakery, the kind with too sweet frosting. Maybe a card propped against the fruit bowl. My expectations were modest because they'd learned to be. The house was silent when I opened the front door. Not the comfortable quiet of people busy in other rooms, but the hollow silence of absence. My backpack hit the floor with a thud that echoed. I walked through the living room, past my father's recliner and my mother's carefully arranged throw pillows, and into the kitchen. That's where I found it. A note on the counter, written in my mother's perfect handwriting, the kind she practiced for church bulletins and thank you cards. Caleb, we're taking the girls to California for 2 weeks. Thought you'd prefer staying home. Money for food in envelope. Be responsible. Mom. I read it 3 times, waiting for the words to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. No happy birthday. No sorry we'll miss your special day. No explanation for why they'd assumed I'd prefer being left behind. Just a casual instruction to be responsible, as if I were a houseplant they'd remembered to water before leaving. The envelope sat beside the note, unsealed. $200 in 20s, fanned out like they'd been counted carefully. 14 days. $14 per day, roughly. They'd done the math. They'd planned this down to the budget. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and checked Facebook. Meredith had posted 40 minutes ago. Her and Claire at the airport, both holding Starbucks cups, Meredith's pink luggage visible in the frame. Family Vakui, with sun and palm tree emoticons, the caption read, 23 likes already. Claire had posted too, a selfie with the airport in soft focus behind her. Best trip ever with my favorite people, with heart and sparkle emoticons. I scrolled through both posts twice. I wasn't in either picture. I wasn't tagged in the captions. I wasn't mentioned in the comments where friends wrote, have fun, and so jealous. The first day, I convinced myself there'd been a mistake. I sat on the front porch with my phone balanced on my knees, certain someone would show up. An aunt, a neighbor, anyone. I texted my mother. Did you really mean for me to stay alone? The message went through. No reply came. By day 2, I started checking the house more carefully. My parents' room, empty of their usual clutter. My sister's rooms, stripped of the things they'd need for a trip. Then I found it, sitting on the printer in my father's office. A hotel reservation confirmation. 2-bedroom suite in Santa Monica. For guests. They'd planned this. They'd budgeted for everyone except me. Day 3, I microwaved a frozen dinner and ate it standing at the counter, telling myself this was temporary. Day 4, I realized the money wouldn't last if I kept eating normally, so I switched to cereal and sandwiches. That evening, Meredith posted another photo. Her and Claire looking at college brochures together. Sister bonding while planning our futures. The heart emoji at the end felt like a door closing. By day 5, I couldn't stand the empty house anymore. I walked to the Enoch Pratt Free Library downtown and stayed until they closed at 9. The walk home took 40 minutes, but it beat sitting in silence, pretending I didn't feel discarded. Day 6, I was back on the library steps at 8 in the evening, a book open in my lap that I wasn't really reading. I hadn't eaten dinner. My backpack held 3 more library books, a nearly empty water bottle, and the crushing understanding that my family had left me on purpose. That's when the car pulled up. A dark sedan, windows down, and a voice I half recognized calling my name. Caleb, what are you doing out here? I looked up. Uncle Richard, my father's younger brother, the one the family called arrogant for leaving the family business years ago. The one who stopped coming to holidays before I hit double digits. I hadn't seen him in over 3 years. Uncle Richard? He got out of the car, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite read. I knew what he was seeing. Wrinkled shirt I'd worn for 2 days straight. Circles under my eyes. A backpack I'd been carrying everywhere because it felt safer than leaving it at home. Where are your parents? He asked. California. With Meredith and Claire. He waited, like he expected more. When I didn't offer it, he asked the question that changed everything. And where are you staying? Home. Alone. I shrugged, trying to project an indifference I didn't feel. His jaw tightened in a way that reminded me of my father, except Richard's anger seemed directed outward, not at me. Get in the car. I'm fine, really. Caleb. Car. Now. Something in his tone left no room for argument. I climbed into the passenger seat, and he drove us through Baltimore to a neighborhood I'd only seen from a distance. Fells Point, where the brick townhouses overlooked the harbor and everything looked intentional. His place was 3 stories of exposed brick and clean lines, with a rooftop terrace overlooking the harbor. The guest room had a bed that looked too pristine to touch, furniture that seemed like it belonged in a catalog. I stood in the doorway, afraid to step inside. You planning to sleep standing up? Richard asked from behind me. I don't want to mess anything up. It's a bedroom. That's its entire purpose. I finally stepped inside and set my backpack down by the desk, still feeling like an intruder. Richard watched from the doorway. When's the last time you ate? He asked. I had to think about it. Breakfast, maybe? Come on. He drove me to a diner after that, a place with cracked red booths and pies under glass domes. When the burger and milkshake arrived, I stared at them like they might evaporate. Richard didn't push. He let me eat first, watching with a concern I wasn't used to seeing from adults in my family. How long were they planning to leave you? He finally asked. 2 weeks. He absorbed this, his coffee cup halfway to his mouth. Did they ask if you wanted to go? I shook my head. Did you do something to deserve being left behind? I don't think so. Richard set his cup down carefully. Then we're clear on one thing. This isn't your fault. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and found Richard in the kitchen with his newspaper spread across the counter. He slid a glass of orange juice toward me. Real glass, not the plastic cups we used at home. I called your parents this morning, he said. My stomach dropped. What did they say? Your mother said, and I'm quoting here, that she thought you'd be fine on your own, that you've always been independent. He paused. I told her you're staying here until they get back. She didn't argue. The words settled over me slowly. My mother hadn't asked to speak to me, hadn't apologized, hadn't said she missed me. She'd just accepted that someone else was handling the inconvenience I represented. 2 weeks later, Richard drove me back to my family's house. Their car sat in the driveway, luggage visible through the living room window. No one came to the door. Inside, my mother sorted vacation photos while my father read the paper. My sisters were on their phones, thumbs moving across screens. Oh, Caleb, my mother said when she noticed us. Did you have a nice time at Richard's? Like it had been a planned sleepover. Like she hadn't abandoned me. Richard's voice cut through the casual pretense. Patricia, we need to talk about the fact that you left your 14-year-old son alone for 2 weeks. My father finally looked up. He's 14 now, old enough to handle himself. Not according to the law. The tension stretched thin. My mother's smile froze on her face. Richard turned to me. Caleb stays with me. When you're ready to be actual parents, you know where I live. My mother's mask cracked slightly. You always thought you were better than us. No, Richard said. I just show up. That night, back in what was now my room, Richard appeared in the doorway with something in his hand. A leather-bound journal, simple and sturdy. For the things worth remembering, he said, setting it on the desk. Start tonight if you want. After he left, I looked at my phone. The family group chat had a new message. Welcome home, with a house emoji. Pictures of them at dinner, everyone laughing. No acknowledgement that I hadn't been there. I opened Facebook and saw Meredith's latest post. Back to reality. Miss California already. Hashtag family time. Claire had posted too. A photo of just her and Meredith. Best sisters ever. Lucky to have this bond. I quietly removed myself from the group chat. Muted both sisters on social media. Then I opened the journal Richard had given me to the first blank page and wrote, Day 1 of actually being seen. Richard didn't just take me in. He rebuilt me from the foundation up, brick by careful brick. It started small. Corrections to my posture at breakfast, casual but consistent. Sit up, he'd say, tapping my shoulder with 2 fingers. People believe you when you believe yourself first. Bad posture tells the world you're apologizing for taking up space. I'd straighten reflexively, shoulders back, chin level. At first it felt performative, like wearing a costume. But over time, it became automatic. I stopped making myself small in doorways. Stopped hunching over my food like someone might take it away. By the end of that first summer, I walked into rooms with my head up, and I noticed people responded differently. They met my eyes. They remembered my name. The financial lessons came wrapped in real consequences. When I asked for a new laptop that first fall, my old one barely holding a charge, Richard didn't reach for his wallet. "Good choice," he said, not looking up from his coffee. "Necessary tool for school. How much have you saved?" The question caught me off guard. "I don't have money." "Then let's fix that." He helped me get a job at the Baltimore Aquarium gift shop, filling out the application beside me, teaching me how to list my limited experience in ways that sounded capable rather than desperate. When my first paycheck came through, $287.43 for 3 weeks of work, I waved it like a trophy at dinner. Richard drove me to the bank the next morning. We set up checking and savings accounts, my name printed on temporary checks that felt impossibly adult. "New rule," he said as we sat in the bank parking lot afterward, engine idling. "Every dollar you earn, you split it. Half saves, half spends. That way you enjoy today without robbing tomorrow." I rolled my eyes, thought it was excessive, but I followed the rule anyway. Direct deposit split automatically between accounts. 6 months later, I'd saved $1,400, more money than I'd ever possessed at once. When I bought a refurbished laptop with my own money, Richard's only comment was delivered over pizza that night at our usual corner booth at Matthews. "Feels different when you earned it, doesn't it?" He was right. It did. The laptop felt like proof of something. Not just that I could work, but that I could plan, wait, achieve something that belonged entirely to me. The lessons kept coming, woven into daily life, so seamlessly I barely noticed I was learning. How to shake hands firmly. How to look people in the eye when speaking. How to listen for what someone meant instead of just what they said. "Half the world bluffs," he told me once. "The other half apologizes for existing." Do neither. When I got upset about something at school and tried to hide it, he noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" he asked at dinner. "Nothing. Try again." I admitted a classmate had made a joke about me having abandonment issues. Richard didn't dismiss it. "That person is bluffing," he said. "Trying to make themselves big by making you small. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt." "No," I agreed quietly. "You feel what you feel. Then you decide what to do with it. Feelings aren't weakness. Ignoring them is." It was the first time an adult man in my life had validated my emotions instead of telling me to toughen up. By 16, Richard started bringing me to his properties. Commercial buildings in Hampton, Canton, Harbor East. He'd let me watch him negotiate with contractors, handle tenant issues, review maintenance schedules. "Watch how I talk to people," he'd murmur. "Watch how they respond." I observed everything. The firm handshakes, the direct eye contact, the clear expectations. When a contractor tried to excuse a delay, Richard cut through it. "I need a solution, not an explanation." He taught me that success wasn't about being the smartest or the loudest. It was about showing up consistently when everyone else invented excuses. Through all of this, my biological family continued their lives as if I'd never existed. Every few months, new posts would appear. Meredith celebrating getting a car for her 18th birthday. Best parents ever. Claire at another pageant with our mother. She's my biggest supporter. My father's Facebook showed photos of family dinners and holidays. Always just the four of them. Always captioned with words like blessed and family time. I saw every post. Each one was a paper cut. Small alone, agonizing when accumulated. Richard never commented on them, never spoke badly about my family. But he noticed when I went quiet after checking my phone. "They're showing you who they are," he'd say. "Believe them." Holidays became a stark contrast. My phone would buzz with generic group texts. "Merry Christmas from the Brooks family," sent to dozens of people, including me, like an afterthought. Meanwhile, Richard's gifts were thoughtful and personal. A leather journal with my initials. A drafting set when I mentioned interest in architecture. A weekend trip to New York to see Hamilton on Broadway. An engraved watch that read, "Time spent building matters." Each gift said the same thing. "You matter. You're worth the effort. You're not forgotten." I went to University of Maryland for architecture. My parents never asked about applications or acceptances. Richard reviewed every financial aid package with me, matched what my scholarships didn't cover, and told me I didn't owe him repayment. "I'm asking you to do the same for someone else someday," he said. On move-in day, while other families arrived with parents and siblings and grandparents, all tears and cameras, Richard and I hauled boxes up 3 flights in silence. Efficient and purposeful. Before he left, he handed me an envelope with $500 and a note. "For emergencies only. You'll know the difference between want and need. College became the place where I proved I could build something myself. I excelled in my program, won design awards, made real friends. I met Olivia during a community project my sophomore year. She was a civil engineering student, direct and honest in ways that reminded me of Richard. When I mentioned my family's situation, she didn't pry. "Good uncle," was all she said. The best. Our relationship grew slowly over the next 2 years, built on respect rather than drama. When her ex-boyfriend asked if I could help him move, and I told her I was uncomfortable with that, she simply said, "Absolutely. Thank you for telling me." No fight, no guilt trip, just respect. By my senior year, I graduated with honors and got a job at a Baltimore architecture firm. I also started managing 3 of Richard's properties. By my mid-20s, at 24 specifically, I became a junior partner in his business, managing properties and handling tenant relations. We had Friday dinners every week. He'd lift his whiskey glass and tease me. "Look at you, Caleb Brooks, scaling the ladder without tripping." Give it time, I'd laugh. I still might. But the jokes stopped masking what I didn't want to see. Richard was slowing down, canceling dinners, losing weight, prescription bottles multiplying on his bathroom counter. In March of 2021, he collapsed during a site inspection. The contractor called an ambulance, then called me. I found Richard in a bed at Johns Hopkins, annoyed at the fuss but clearly weak. The doctors said his heart was failing. He needed surgery. Might not have much time. Late that night, with monitors beeping softly, Richard looked at me with rare vulnerability. "I always thought your father would teach you these things," he said, voice rough. "How to stand tall, how to manage money, how to be a man without losing yourself." He paused, breath shaky. "But I'm glad it was me. You turned out better than any of us deserved." I gripped his hand. "You're not going anywhere. Not yet. But when I do, remember something." "What?" "Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Your parents couldn't see it. Their loss. You saw it. Wasn't hard. You were there all along." Richard survived the surgery and recovered, but he moved slower after that. Tired easier. By our last Christmas together in 2023, he handed me an envelope containing his updated will, insurance information, property deeds. "This isn't morbid," he said. "It's practical. I don't want your money," I told him, fighting tears. "I want you. I know, but you'll have the money anyway. Use it well." On January 15th, 2025, the phone rang at 6:47 in the morning. Richard's housekeeper, Mrs. Brennan, was crying. "Caleb, you need to come." Richard didn't wake up. He died peacefully in his sleep, exactly as the doctors predicted might happen. I stood in the doorway of his bedroom, unable to process that the man who'd saved me was gone. The funeral was small. Richard's colleagues, contractors, a few old friends. I stood at the front with Olivia beside me, preparing to deliver the eulogy I'd written through tears. Then the Brooks family arrived. My mother wore a black designer dress and sunglasses large enough to hide half her face. My father moved through the room, shaking hands like a politician. Meredith and Claire were elegant in their grief, diamonds catching the light. They took seats in the second row as if they belonged there. My mother approached me after the service. "Sweetheart, we're so sorry for your loss." As if Richard had been only my uncle, not hers by marriage too. At the reception, they mingled and accepted condolences, rewriting history with every conversation. My father told someone Richard had been the successful one in the family, and how devastated they all were. My mother mentioned how grateful she was that Caleb had such a special bond with Richard. Claire finally approached me directly. "So, when's the estate stuff happening?" Not "how are you?" Not "we're here for you." Just, "when do we discuss money?" "Next week," I said. "The lawyer will contact you." They left without helping clean up, without offering support, with only a promise to see me at the attorney's office. The messages started the next day. My mother texting for the first time in 8 years, suggesting we handle things as a family. My father leaving voicemails about honoring Richard's legacy properly. Meredith sliding into my Instagram DMs, wanting to grab coffee before the meeting. Claire texting about dinner plans, ending with, "and maybe discuss the estate stuff too, LOL." Every message mentioned inheritance. None asked how I was doing. 3 days before the meeting, they showed up at the townhouse unannounced, arms full of casseroles, looking around with appraising eyes. "How are you managing?" Meredith asked. Living here alone must be hard. Translation: when are you selling? My mother suggested I come stay with them until everything was settled. My father mentioned making sure the estate was divided fairly among family. I told them Richard had been specific about what was fair. The tension in the room told me they suspected something they didn't like. On February 3rd, 2025, at 10 in the morning, we gathered in the conference room of Silverman and Associates. Lawrence Silverman had been Richard's attorney for 30 years, present for every major decision Richard made. The office sat on the 14th floor of a glass building downtown, the conference room windows overlooking the inner harbor where sailboats dotted the gray water. The room itself was designed to intimidate. Heavy mahogany table that could seat 12. Leather chairs that creaked expensively when you shifted weight. Bookshelves lined with legal volumes that probably hadn't been opened in decades. Everything in that space whispered money and consequence. I arrived at 9:45, wearing Richard's watch and a calm I'd practiced in the mirror that morning. Silverman was already there, files stacked beside his laptop, reading glasses perched on his nose. He nodded when I entered, a small acknowledgement that felt like an alliance. My family arrived in a cluster just before 10. My mother in a designer dress, carrying a handbag that probably cost more than my first car. My father in a suit he reserved for important occasions, his stride confident. Meredith looked polished and prepared, already mentally drafting the social media post she'd write later. Claire had her phone out, filming a subtle Instagram story captioned, "Important family meeting today," with a briefcase emoji. They took seats on one side of the table, a united front. I sat across from them, alone except for the truth. The clock on the wall ticked toward 10. Silverman began precisely on time. "We're here to review the last will and testament of Richard Alexander Brooks, dated December 1st, 2023. Mr. Brooks was very specific in his wishes, and My mother interrupted, leaning forward with a practiced expression of gratitude. "Before we start, Lawrence, I want to say how grateful we are that Richard provided for all of us. Family meant everything to him, and we know he'd want us to handle this together." Meredith nodded earnestly. "We want to make sure his assets are distributed fairly among all his nieces and nephews. That's what he would have wanted." Claire added her voice, sweet and certain. "Obviously, we'll need to sell the properties and divide everything equally. That's what family does, right? Share and share alike." My father's voice came last, calm and reasonable, the tone he used when he wanted to sound like the adult in the room. "We can work together on this. There's no need for conflict. We're all family here." Then my mother turned to me, her face arranged in sympathy that looked rehearsed. She reached across the table as if to touch my hand, though she stopped short of actual contact. "And of course, you'll get your share too, sweetie. Richard wouldn't leave you out. We'll make sure you're taken care of." As if she was being generous. As if I needed her permission to inherit from the man who raised me. As if the past 15 years could be papered over with condescending kindness. The room went quiet. Everyone waited for Silverman to begin reading. He looked at me instead, one eyebrow raised slightly, a question in the gesture. This was the moment. The one I'd been preparing for since the funeral. The one where I could stay silent and let the lawyer deliver the news, or take control of the narrative myself. I chose control. I leaned back in my chair, crossed one ankle over my knee, and kept my voice level and clear. "Actually, Mom, you won't be walking out of here with anything." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the sounds from the street below seemed to fade. My mother's smile froze on her face, caught between pleasantness and confusion. "Excuse me," she said, the word coming out sharp. "Richard left everything to me. The properties, the investments, the townhouse, the portfolio. All of it. Every dollar. Every deed. Everything." The words hung in the air like smoke. My father stood halfway out of his chair, hands flat on the table. "That's not possible. Richard would never cut out his own family. There must be some mistake." "No mistake," I said. "He was very clear. Very intentional." Meredith's face had gone pale, her composure cracking at the edges. "You're joking. This is some kind of sick joke." "I'm not joking. I'm telling you what's about to be read from that will." Claire's voice climbed higher, tinged with something between disbelief and anger. "But we're family. He can't just give everything to you." I let the irony of that statement settle before responding. "Your family when there's money involved," I said, each word deliberate. Where were you 15 years ago when I was family then? My mother's face flushed red, her careful mask slipping. That's not fair, Caleb. We were young parents. We made mistakes. You left me alone for 2 weeks when I was 14. On my birthday, you never called to check if I was safe, if I'd eaten, if I was scared. You never apologized. You removed me from every family photo, every vacation, every holiday for 15 years. I wasn't in your Christmas cards. I wasn't in your summer albums. I was erased. My father tried to interrupt, his voice taking on the stern quality he used when he wanted to end arguments. We thought you were fine with Richard. We thought. Because it was convenient. I cut him off. You didn't think about me at all. You thought about what was easiest for you. My mother's voice cracked now, the performance giving way to something rawer. We made mistakes, but we're still your family. Blood matters, Caleb. You can't just. And Richard fixed every one of those mistakes. Every single one. He raised me when you checked out. He taught me when you couldn't be bothered. He showed me what family actually means, and it has nothing to do with blood. Silverman's voice cut through the chaos. Caleb is correct. I'll read the relevant sections. He opened the folder with deliberate slowness. To my brother Vincent, sister-in-law Patricia, and nieces Meredith and Claire, I leave nothing. You had the chance to be family and chose convenience instead. My mother gasped. To my nephew Caleb Brooks, I leave the entirety of my estate, including all properties, investments, accounts, and personal effects. Caleb has been my son in every way that matters. He has earned this not through blood, but through presence. My father was shaking with anger. This is insane. We'll contest this. Silverman's expression didn't change. You won't win. Richard documented everything. Every missed birthday, every unanswered phone call, every social media post that excluded Caleb. He also documented every school event he attended, every property management lesson, every investment decision he and Caleb made together. Caleb has been co-managing this estate for 3 years. This will is airtight. He pressed a button on his laptop, and the screen on the wall lit up. Richard also left a video. He wanted you to hear this directly. Richard appeared on screen, recorded the same month he'd updated his will, sitting in his office. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And if my family is in this room, I imagine they're upset. He paused, that slight smile I knew so well crossing his face. Vincent, Patricia, you had one job. Raise your son. You couldn't be bothered. You left a child alone because it was easier than bringing him along. You don't get to show up now and pretend you cared. Caleb has been my partner, my pride, and my family for 15 years. Every success I've had in the last decade, he's been part of it. He's earned every dollar he's inheriting. And to Caleb, if you're watching this, stop feeling guilty. You don't owe them anything. You owe yourself the life you've built. Use this money well. Build things that last. And show up for people the way I showed up for you. That's all family ever had to be. The video ended. My mother was crying, but not from grief. From fury. Meredith looked stunned. Claire couldn't form words. This is unbelievable, Meredith finally said. No, I replied. This is accountability. My father's voice shook. You poisoned him against us. I didn't have to. You did that yourselves. 15 years ago. Silverman closed the file. The estate is settled. Caleb has full legal ownership as of today. This meeting is adjourned. I stood, fastened Richard's watch back on my wrist, and picked up the folder Silverman handed me. Thank you, Lawrence. Richard chose well, he said. Those 3 words meant more than the entire inheritance. I walked to the door. My mother's voice followed me, broken and desperate. Caleb, please. We can talk about this. I turned back one last time. No, we can't. Because you never wanted to talk to me. You wanted to talk about money. My father tried once more. You're really going to cut us out? Your own family? You cut me out first. I'm just making it official. Meredith's voice rose. This isn't over. I looked at her, then at Claire, then at my parents. It was over when you posted that photo. Best sisters ever. And left me out. It was over when you tagged everyone, but me in family time. It was over when I turned 14 alone in an empty house, and you were in California pretending I didn't exist. I paused at the door. This isn't me walking away from family. This is me finally accepting you already did. 3 weeks later, I stood on the rooftop terrace of the townhouse. The view stretched across Baltimore Harbor, lights reflecting on dark water. Olivia stood beside me, her arm around my waist. In my hand was Richard's journal, the one he'd given me when I was 14, filled now with 15 years of entries. "You okay?" Olivia asked. "Yeah, just thinking about the kid who sat on those library steps, terrified to go home to an empty house." I opened the journal to the first page. My 14-year-old handwriting read, "Day 1 of actually being seen." The last page held this morning's entry. Richard's last lesson: build things that last. Not just buildings. Relationships. Trust. Yourself. "If I could tell that kid something," I said slowly, "I'd say someone's coming. Someone who'll see you. Who'll teach you that you're not the problem. You never were. And one day, you'll stand in the house he left you, and you'll know exactly why he left it." "And why's that?" Olivia asked. "Because I was already home." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Caleb, it's your mother. Please reconsider. We're family. We can work this out." I read it, deleted it, blocked the number. "Ready to go inside?" Olivia asked. "Yeah, let's use the dining room. The good chairs. The nice plates." "Richard's rules." I smiled. "No, mine. Things exist to be used, not feared." Below us, Baltimore glowed with the lights of the properties Richard built. The city he taught me to navigate. The legacy he trusted me to carry forward. On the terrace table, the journal lay open to that final entry. "Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. R.B." Below it, I'd added in fresh ink, "And you honor those who saw